Let's talk about first impressions. What are first impressions? What are they about from a black pill standpoint or from a psychology standpoint? First impressions are actually not about your behavior, your attitude the first time somebody meets you. First impressions are about your looks, period. Okay? First impressions are about your looks, the way you look, the way you present yourself. And when I say present yourself, because if you ask the average person, they will say it's about presentation, but they'll say presentation as in, you know, the way you're dressed, if you're wearing a nice suit, if you have a nice haircut, if you brush your teeth, things like that. That's what they'll refer to as first impression, and all those things matter. But one thing they won't say is actually first impression. It's the way you look. It's just it's your face. First impressions are your face and your looks. That's what people see first. And that's the one thing that you have not a lot of control over. Okay? So when people say always try to make a good first impression, sure, always try to make a good first impression. But the question is, how much of that do you actually control? Okay? Do you truly control the impression that you make on other people? You have a slight, you have a slight influence on that. Haircut, dress, hygiene, the way you talk, but that's all that you control. So there are gonna be reactions and consequences to that have nothing to do with you. So if you went to a job interview, you did a good job, you think you made the right first impression, but the dude who interviewed you, he's thinking, that was pretty bad. In your mind, you thinking you had a good first impression. He's thinking, no, that was pretty bad, because he's not just looking at your dress, he's looking at also the way you look, and maybe he just doesn't like it that much, right? Maybe the HR lady who's interviewing you, maybe she just doesn't like you that much from a look standpoint. Okay? So there's a lot of that you don't control. So when people say first impression, you go to a job interview, you go to a networking event, you go to all these things, well, there's only so much control you have over that, because you don't control, the way people perceive you, regardless of how you're dressed, regardless if you're wearing a suit, regardless if you carry yourself a certain way, you try to be a good guy, professional guy, regardless, there's only so much of that's in your control. So first impressions are not that. They are the presentation, but they're also just the way you look to people, the way people perceive you, which means a lot of that is completely outside of that control that you thought you had, right? But anyway, that's really something I thought about, and it's really a black-pilled revelation to know that regardless of what you do, well, you only have so much. There's only so much you can actually control, which means from a employment standpoint, a job standpoint, as you guys know in the black pill, a dating standpoint, there's only so much that you can control, man. But anyway, you should still try to make a good first impression. I'm not saying just don't care at all and just completely ignore it. Not what I'm saying. But realize there's only so much you can do.